So hello everybody, welcome to the Kaleidoscope Cafe Podcast. Once again, joining me today is Bea Lacey. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. After getting this meeting working, we're rolling through.
Yeah. It's going well now. Going well. Thanks so much for having me. I'm very excited to be doing this today.
Thanks for coming on. It's great to have you on. So do you want to start off a bit with talking about your single, Don't Wait?
Yeah. So I released it. Oh God, when did I release it? March this year. It was for college. We had to release a song for our creative project module. Otherwise, I think I would have been too afraid to put anything out. But they were like, no, you've got to release something. So it was good. It made me release it. But it was a song actually I wrote a long time ago. I wrote it the first lockdown. I wrote it just before I moved out for the first time. So it's kind of about, that terrifying feeling of moving out for the first time.
Yeah.
And yeah, just kind of that sense of when you move out, I think, you're kind of leaving your family and friends not behind. I mean, you are in a way, you're kind of going out and starting a new life outside of that kind of circle that you have. So that's kind of what Don't Wait is about.
Okay.
But yeah. But it was fun to release it. I don't know, it was quite an experience. It was the first thing I'd released, so I kind of had no idea what I was doing. I was kind of just Spotify, okay, I'll put this on here. I think this is right. That artwork, I don't know. It was kind of a bit of a shambles, but I think it worked in the end, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
It all came together, yeah.
Yeah.
What was your process writing that? Did you start writing on the guitar or?
Oh gosh, I don't even remember now. I think it was one of those things. It kind of depends. My process is weird. It kind of all over the place. Sometimes I'll start with lyrics. Sometimes I'll start with melody. Sometimes I'll start with chords. I think with that song, it was the chorus kind of came into my head, and I was like, "Oh, I like that melody," and then with those lyrics, and then I kind of built the rest of the song around the chorus.
Right.
But it was one of those songs. It was one of those rare times where you get inspiration to write a song, and it just happens in 30 minutes, and you're like, "Whoa, where did that come from?"
Yeah.
So it was one of those songs. So it was fun to write. I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like those are the best as well, because you'll go back and you'll be like, no, I can't even improve on it. It was perfect.
Exactly. Yeah. I wish all songs could be written like that. It's such a great feeling as well, because I feel with some songs you get so stuck in just trying to write and it's the same even a verse you're stuck on for hours, and you're just this is going nowhere, and then you get a song where it takes 20 minutes to write, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
this is great.
Yeah. I was talking with a previous guest, Niall. We were talking about the exact same thing of just sort of that almost, some would say, divine inspiration. You'll hear Paul McCartney saying he has struck in a dream with Let It Be or whatever, and you're like,
yeah.
waiting for that one.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things. I feel sometimes you just are sitting doing you're not even thinking, maybe I'm not sitting with my guitar, not thinking about music at all, and then just something will come into my head, and I'm like, oh, I like that, I'm gonna sit and write that, and then all of a sudden, I don't know. It always seems to be for me at 4 a.m. is the golden hour of songwriting for me. Just when everyone else is Bea, you're being too loud, we're trying to sleep. But,
Yeah.
that's definitely, yeah.
I feel for me, it's got to be an inconvenient moment. It's got to be at 4
Oh,
a.m.
of course.
early morning, while I'm fully trying to do something else. And that's another thing. I'll be walking, and I'll be trying to type on my phone, but inconspicuously, because you don't want to be sort of the dude who's writing deep lyrics on the brain.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think sometimes as well I'll be out in the city or whatever, walking, and then I'll be like, oh, that melody is cool, and I just have to quietly, sing into my phone recorder, so no one looks at me. I'm like, I'm just, recording for a friend or something. It's
Yeah.
It's so good.
I feel in the big cities, if I'm in London, I don't worry so much, because I'm like, oh, everybody here is slightly strange, so I'm just going to kind of blend into the
Yeah.
Yeah. I know, if you know Lin-Manuel Miranda, the guy who wrote Hamilton, he came up with songs for that on a subway, and I was like, I can't imagine pretending to type my just into my phone.
That's so cool. I did not know that. That's one of the things I actually really need to watch is Hamilton. I've heard songs from it before, obviously, but I still have yet to see it, so I need to do that.
I would definitely recommend it. It's just brilliant. He's a great songwriter, but he's also just he brings a very fun attitude to historical events, whereas I would not read about the founding fathers necessarily, but if they're doing a musical, I'm like, oh, brilliant, this is actually great.
Yeah.
So,
no, that's cool. I'm a big musical fan.
Yeah. Oh, okay. What kind of musicals?
Well, I mean, I say I'm a big musical fan, but I haven't actually watched that many musicals, but I think Moulin Rouge has to be my favorite. It's just
Classic.
quality. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched In the Heights. That's another one by him. If you're looking
I
for
haven't
some
seen
good
that.
years.
I'll have to watch that. Yeah.
So how did the instrumentation come about? You kind of came up with the initial idea and then built a chord sequence, or how did that kind of happen?
Yeah. So I think it was. I'm trying to think what are the chords for the chorus now, because it was I think the chorus I wrote first, and then I write everything on my acoustic really, so it's always just like me and my guitar, and then yeah, I think I had just the basic chords and then the melody and the lyrics and everything in the song, and then when I went to record it as a demo and then a full song, I kind of it's kind of weird. I think I was just kind of sitting with my DAW open and just kind of messing around with what sounds best, and then I kind of was I don't want it to be too over the top, so I'm just gonna do some basic chords and then some basic melodies for the chorus and the intro and stuff, and that's kind of basically how it how it came about. I feel it's so long ago now. I'm oh god, trying to remember how I actually did it.
I get you. In terms of production, did you produce it yourself, or did you kind of go to a studio?
Yeah, no, so I did it all myself. I was because I recorded it in the second lockdown, so it was January time, so I couldn't actually go to a studio, which was a shame because that was one of the things I wanted to do for it. So yeah, I just used Ableton, and then had just a little tiny audio interface and condenser mic, and that was just me. And I had no idea what I was doing. I've taken sound production classes through my college before, which I want to say that I've learned stuff from, but I haven't learned a lot from it because it kind of just all makes my head spin. So I kind of was just trying to do things with the EQ and be this sounds okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but so it was kind of all over the place. But yeah, I did produce it and mix it and stuff myself. So
yeah, you did a really good job.
Thank you.
I remember kind of having the same in sound production classes where they would they would take a song that had already been produced and they give you a Michael Jackson track and be produce this how you would. And then I came to recording my own kind of acousticy stuff, and I was how on earth do I apply these principles to this situation?
Yeah, that's definitely the thing. Yeah, I was the same in my class. We kind of would learn how to produce these kind of more electronic tracks or poppy tracks or just whatever, rock. But and then when I come to producing the acoustic guitar, it's really hard to there must be techniques to it, but I'm I feel it's difficult to kind of get the right amount of reverb and right EQs and stuff. I'm just I have no idea.
Yeah, I kind of just go by ear, and I also Google other people's mic placements. I'll look at somebody who looks like they know what they're doing. I'll be that's roughly there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of thing. So you said college kind of gave you the confidence to do it. I know I kind of had that with having a deadline and just being sort of forced to produce something.
Yeah,
What's the usual process? Do you usually kind of wait for, I don't know, a sort of deadline thing, or is it more of a natural process if you just come up with an idea and then you're hey, I'll release this?
Aside from college is what you're saying, what would be my writing a song kind of process? Yeah, it kind of depends. I mean, Don't Wait was the first song and the only song that I've released so far. I really wanted to release an EP this summer, but I was working full time, so that kind of just went out the window. But no, with my songwriting, it definitely depends on what kind of mood I'm in. I think sometimes I'll be watching a good film or something, and I'm oh, that's kind of cool. I want to write a song about that character or whatever. Or I'm just oh my god, I'm so in a bad place. I'm to write a song about that. Whatever. It kind of just depends on I guess I just kind of usually just wait for inspiration. I want to work more on being one of those songwriters who sits down every day or a certain amount of times a week and be I'm going to write something. I'm going to make myself write something. Because I feel that is so helpful when you actually start to do it. But I don't do that. I usually just wait for the inspiration to come to me, which then, you don't write as many songs. Especially in COVID times, there's not as much inspiration. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I think I heard Stevie Nicks kind of say a similar thing. I think she was watching the Twilight series and she ended up writing an album out of it. So it just kind
of... really?
Yeah.
That's so cool. I have to hear this album.
I forget which album it was. It was one of her solo ones. I can't even remember the name, but I remember listening to it at the time and I was I can vaguely kind of hear the sort of, I don't know, fantasy kind of elements in there.
Yeah.
Who are some of the songwriters who kind of influenced you?
Gosh, there's a lot of them. I feel right now, Brandi Carlile is a huge influence for me. I remember hearing her when I was 17 and being whoa, this is amazing. I've never heard anything like this before. So just kind of a lot of the artists that are in the Americana scene right now in the States. So First Aid Kit, who is Jason Isabel and the 500 unit, I think.
Okay.
But then I take a lot of inspiration kind of 70s music as well, like Joanie Mitchell and like even like the Rolling Stones and stuff, which I don't know if I don't feel like doesn't really translate in my songs, but I love the Stones, and kind of like James Taylor even, you know, like I just love all that kind of stuff. So it's a bit all over the place, I feel like, but no, yeah, it's a lot of those guys.
Yeah, Joanie Mitchell is definitely one of the greats. She's
just amazing,
favorite.
Isn't she? The thing I love about Joanie Mitchell as well is like I was trying to learn her songs, and they're like she has such like crazy tunings, and like but it's so cool. Like I think it's because she got like polio when she was a kid, and then so she can only play like certain shapes on the guitar or something. I don't remember the story now. But that's I think why she has so many wacko tunings. But I love it. Just like it's so interesting. It like makes my songwriting better when I learn her stuff because she just like But she's one of those artists who has like everything. She's got like the voice, the like instrumentation, and the lyrics. It's just all there. Like. Yeah. It's just amazing.
Yeah, the whole Blue album is just blowing to me.
It's a masterpiece.
As a songwriter, I'm like, how on earth did you come up with all of this?
I know. It's like that kind of like, you're like in awe, but also extremely jealous. I'm like, I wish that I could write something as amazing as this.
Yeah.
But no, A Case of You is like probably one of my favorite songs ever, if not my favorite. I love it. It's great.
Brilliant track, yeah. Do you think coming from the States sort of influenced you liking that kind of Americana style of music?
Yeah, it's interesting. It probably did. I think it's weird because I moved to Scotland when I was like 2. So like my parents are both from Ohio. But like I've like obviously visited there and stuff, but I've never like considered America as my home before.
Okay.
But it probably does have an influence, like, you know, because there's something about, even though I haven't lived there, I know it's like another culture that I kind of belong to in a sense. So like the music that comes from there probably does appeal to me because of that as well. But I think like ultimately why I love country and Americana is just the stories. I just love like songs. You know, I love a good long like 10-minute ballad about like something terrible. You know, like I love a good ballad.
Yeah. I have that with Bob Dylan. He'll be sort of singing about like JFK getting killed for 20 minutes, and I'm like, oh, tremendous.
Quality. It's quality.
Yeah. Do you ever listen to country, or is that?
Oh yeah, I'm a huge country fan. It was funny because like I didn't really start listening to like folk music or like Americana music until I was like 14, really, I want to say, and that was like after I started listening to country music. I have to say I'm a big Taylor Swift fan, you know, and she's pop now, but when I was like 12, I heard her, you know, like early albums, and I was like, what is this fiddle and banjo? Oh my God, this is amazing. I need to listen to more of this. And then that kind of, you know, like sent me down the path of listening to actual country music. But I love country, like Dolly Parton and Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson, just all the greats. I'm a big fan. Yeah. You just can't not love Dolly, right? She's amazing.
Yeah, I do love all of the above. I heard a story about Willie Nelson. His house had burned down, and he ran in, and the only things he saved were his guitar and a pound of weed. And I was like,
it's amazing. I think I've heard that story before. It just makes you love Willie Nelson even more. But I love his guitar as well. It's so cool. I think there's not a quote where he's like, once my guitar breaks, I'm going to stop playing music. It's like something like that. It's, you know, in better words than that. I don't know, but because I think it's like the same guitar, and if you look at photos of it now, it's just like the massive hole in it, you know, like that's not supposed to be there, obviously. And it's just kind of in pieces, but he still plays it. I think it's so cool. But I love his stuff.
I saw a video of a guy repairing his guitar, and it was, I mean, it was a splinter of wood. I'm not sure what he's done to it over the years.
Yeah, I know. No, it's so cool. But I love his sound, his like style of guitar playing as well, because I didn't realize until recently he plays like a classical guitar, and that's why it just, you know, you can hear that. But it's just so cool because I feel like you don't get that in a lot of country. I mean, you do in a way, in like more kind of like Mexican, kind of like Texan country music. But I just think it's really cool, all of his like solo work and like melodic kind of riffs and stuff. Like, they're so cool. I love it.
Yeah. I think he calls it Trigger. I'm pretty sure that's the name.
Yeah, I think that is. I was like trying to think of the name before, and I was I think it is. Yeah, it's so cool.
Do you feel like you'd ever venture into making country music yourself?
Oh, I'd love to. I feel like, I don't know, with like Don't Wait, I guess it was kind of like folk Americana. I'm not really sure, but I'd love to like get a country band together, get some like fiddles and banjos, mandolins. You know, I love bluegrass as well, so I feel like just all that kind of stuff. That's definitely something I'm going to want to do at some point, I think.
Okay. What's kind of the distinction between bluegrass and country? I've never really got that. Is bluegrass more like different instrumentation, or?
Yeah, I feel like, oh god, I should know now that I have to like explain. I think like bluegrass is more like it's just like really really fast country music. If that's like, I mean, I don't know how to describe it, but it is. I think it's like similar instruments, um, but the cool thing about bluegrass as well is it's like almost like jazzy, like the way they have like, like it's like typical in like a bluegrass song to like have every musician like solo and like they go around, and kind of almost like in blues as well. It's like they kind of just have like yeah, just like it's all about like the instruments. I think it's just like a lot like fiddle and mandolin and like the upright bass and banjo and stuff and guitar. But I love it. But yeah, I feel like the best way to describe it is like really fast country music. I feel like that's probably doesn't make sense, but you know. I love it though. It's great. I'd love to go to some bluegrass festivals at some point. You know, in the States. That'd be cool.
That'd be really cool. Have you ever kind of done shows in the US or sort of?
Oh no, I don't really have much experience at all doing shows, to be honest. I feel like I've been writing songs. I've been playing music since I was little. And then I've been writing songs for like 5 or 6 years, but I've never really done many shows. I've done like, so open mic nights here and there, okay, right. But that's about it, excluding like college live performances, which I feel like don't really count because it's for your college and it's just like, it's for your tutors and like all the mums of the class coming in and seeing, so I feel like that kind of counts. I don't know. Yeah. But no, like now that kind of COVID is, easing up and like gigs are actually starting, I'd love to get into that scene of actually performing myself because obviously, I mean, most musicians do love that, so.
Yeah, I've had the same thing. I've done like local shows, but I've yet to kind of venture out and do anything too crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's definitely a big dream of mine to go like tour across the States. Even just to drive across the States and listen to other people play music would be fine with me as well. I mean, I ideally like to play, but no, I love the thought of doing that and playing in like the big music cities in America and stuff.
Mm-hmm. So you can see yourself returning to the US potentially?
Yeah, definitely. I think I would like to, yeah. I don't know when, because I love Scotland. Like, Scotland's my home. But I think it'll be a case of me probably living in the States for a couple of years, then, like, coming back to Scotland when I'm, like, an old lady, like, my retirement country. But I love Glasgow. I'm just getting to know Glasgow now. I, like, moved last year. And I don't really want to leave Glasgow for a while, so I think I'll be here for a good, like 5 years or whatever, and then at some point I could see myself living in the States for a while. I feel like there's certain aspects about America that I don't like. There's a bit of a crazy culture there. But at least Trump isn't president anymore, so I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely a good way to describe it. There's crazy elements of the US. Yeah, it's a mixed bag. I think it's also what state you're in and who you're talking to. I mean, it can vary so much.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. So what kind of brought you over to Scotland?
So my dad, I actually don't know how it came about, but he got offered a job in St. Andrews, and then so we just moved to Scotland, and that's, kind of the rest is history. But I'm so glad they moved. My parents lived in different places. Like they lived in the States, and then they lived in Cairo and Egypt for a while. And then, I don't know why they chose Scotland, but I'm glad they did because I love it here. Like, it's so much nicer than Ohio, where they originally came from.
Okay. I haven't been to Ohio. I've heard good things, but I've also seen the like memes of like everybody seems to like have a vendetta against Ohio for no reason. But... Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. It's funny. My parents are from Cleveland, and you just hear Cleveland mentioned so many times in like like popular TV shows and films. It's just like everyone likes to diss Cleveland. But I think, to be honest, how I feel about Ohio from visiting it, it's a very bland state. I feel like there's not much excitement going on there. But maybe now that I'm older, maybe going back could be, I don't know. I mean, I thought the Black Keys are from Ohio, so that's like, I like, oh, that's kind of cool. But that's like the only thing I can say that's cool about Ohio.
Yeah. I think from what I've heard, I've only like really known one person who went there, and she came back and she was like, there was some nice scenery, but like, yeah.
Yeah? Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. See, I feel like yeah, oh, sorry, you go, what were you saying?
Oh, yeah, I just kind of got the impression that it was a lot of fields, maybe, and not, like, a massive amount else. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. From my experience, it's just, like, a lot of cornfields, and, like, kind of, like, a barren expanse of cornfields. You're just like, well, this is almost, like, existential. There's so much here. But, yeah.
I can kind of see that. So, in Scotland, you've moved to Glasgow. Where were you previously?
It's over in Fife, so, like, near St. Andrews. So that's like I think like an hour. I don't know if you know like the Scottish geography, but it's like an hour and a half away from Glasgow. So it's not too bad. It's not that far. But yeah, I did move like from the countryside to the city. So it's very exciting being in the city now. I'm like, oh, but I feel like I haven't gotten to know Glasgow yet because of COVID. And kind of like moved, like, you know, coming out of like the pandemic or not coming out of the pandemic, coming out of the first lockdown last year. So I'm kind of still, you know, easing my way into it. But I love it here. It's so good. It's so exciting.
Yeah, I've heard really good things about the music scene in Glasgow.
Well, that's definitely what I'm so excited for because I remember when I moved out last year, there was like nothing going on because gigs weren't going on obviously yet. But now I've just been looking and there's like just I think 10 people coming in the next like 2 months that I want to see, and then there's so many open mic nights. I went to such a cool open mic night last Sunday at this pub, and it was like all blues rock, and it was just the best thing. It was like the first live music I'd seen since like before COVID as well, so it was just like, oh, this is amazing.
Yeah, definitely hits different after like so long. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I think it was like the first open mic night they had hosted since COVID as well. So like everyone, it was just jam packed. So everyone was just like, this is amazing. Everyone was like in the same place, I think. But it was really cool. It's so great to have live music return finally. You know, it's like one of those things that even I think people who aren't musicians have like been needing so much. You know, it's like it's such an amazing thing. It's been awful to not have it.
Yeah, I was talking to a woman who like booked me and my friend for a private party, and she had said she was in Bath, the city, and one of the things she kind of noticed was just the amount of live music that was kind of coming back, and she was like, it's like the soul of the city's kind of returning now with the music.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that as well. Like, I think it's quite jarring having like no live music, you know.
Definitely. I think it was a case even like when you go to a pub, like I feel like it was earlier this year, it must have been like in April and stuff, whenever like pubs first opened, and like they didn't have music playing, like even just like recorded music in the background, and it was such a weird atmosphere because you'd go in and like it'd be like a lull in the conversation, and then it's just like, you know, like silence. And even if there's not lulls in the conversation, I remember saying to my friend, I was like, this just is so like, oh, we just need some music playing here, you know, like even if it's not live, it's like it adds so much to it. It's the soul of the, like you were saying, it's like
it's like the atmosphere. Can you see yourself making some more music in the future?
Definitely. I'm really wanting to like I said earlier, I really wanted to make an AP this summer, and that kind of didn't happen, but I'm kind of hoping to focus on that in the next few weeks even, because it's one of those things, like, because I've only released one song, I have a bunch of songs I could release, but it's just kind of, you know, like sifting through them and then like working up the confidence to be like, okay, I can release this song, I want to do this, because it's so fun to do, you know, but it's kind of one of those things like, oh god, what if nobody listens to it? Like, what if everyone hates it? Not that I really care about that, but no, I definitely want to be like working on an EP or even just a single, but I've got quite a few songs lined up that I think would be good. But I think it's just about like getting access to a studio. My college is really good because they've got a really nice studio there, so hopefully I'll be able to use that for like my songs and kind of get that going, because I'd love to do that, you know. Yeah.
What kind of stuff is coming on the new EP? Would it be more country, more kind of Americana?
You know what? I don't really know yet. It's kind of funny because I have these songs. I have quite a few songs that are kind of like the vibe of Don't Wait. Not like the lyrical vibe, but that kind of music. But then I have other songs that are more bluesy and other songs that are more country. And so it's kind of like, it's a mixture of all of them. I think it just depends on like when I get to the studio or if I record at home and like who I end up recording with. Because I like the idea of doing it myself, but then I love the idea of like having other musicians come in and getting some like fiddle and like mandolin and bass on my songs, you know, and maybe even some drums. I don't know, some like brushwork. So it just kind of depends. But I'd love to do like some country and even some blues. I'd love to kind of get into that as well. So it might end up being that I release some into Americana and then release a blues EP or you know, something else. I don't know.
Kind of explore different avenues.
100%. Yeah. There's just like so much that I want to release and like so much that I want to play. I'm like, oh my god, I don't even know where to start. But you know, I don't know. Because I'd love as well to do something that's like kind of like taking inspiration from like I was saying earlier, like 70s kind of folk music. I'd love to do, even if it's like an album of covers or something, you know, like doing some like Neil Young and Joanie Mitchell and James Taylor, and I just think that would be pretty fun to like try and do that. I don't know.
That would
we'll
be
awesome.
Yeah, he is one of the greats in my eyes. Also, Gordon Lightfoot, he's another one of those kind of Canadian folk musicians from around that era.
I don't think I know him actually. What's his name?
Gordon Lightfoot.
Oh, maybe. I'll have to look him up, but
he's one of those dudes where you'll probably hear one of his top songs and be like, "Oh, I've heard this somewhere in the past."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
Widely played. Yeah. I love like Neil Young. Also, not only just his music, but also like his attitude. I remember I was watching this thing
So cool.
where he was with, if you know the producer David Foster.
I think
like,
so, yeah.
Yeah, super like popular producer, but he was working with Neil Young, and he kind of like taps in on the microphone and goes, "Neil, you're flat," and Neil just responds, "That's my style, man." And I was,
I love it.
yeah, he's just the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole Harvest Moon album is incredible to me.
Oh, it's amazing. Like, actually, it's really funny because I don't know how I avoided, but I didn't really listen to Neil Young for so long, and then like, just in like, I feel like the second lockdown, when I had so much more time to listen to music, I like discovered Neil Young and I was like, whoa, this guy is incredible. How have I like not heard his stuff properly? And Harvest Moon is like now one of my favorite albums. Like I love Unknown Legend. It's just like, oh, it's an amazing song. I love it. And that record are great as well though. So
they're all incredible, yeah. Do you ever listen to Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, or are you more into like his solo stuff?
You know, I haven't gotten into them yet, but like I've heard, you know, like I know some of their songs and I'm like, that's really cool. And they're like one of those bands that's like on my like listen list, which sounds so cheesy, but like, you know, I keep, their name keeps popping up. I'm like, I really need to like properly listen to their records, and I just haven't yet. But I want to, because I mean they're pretty amazing, the songs I've heard. So
yeah, I think you'd like them. They're pretty incredible. Also some more like slightly rockier stuff on there from Neil, which is always quite fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a track, Almost Cut My Hair. That's a really great song. Very kind of hippie-ish hairpiece vibes, but it's...
Oh, nice. I love those vibes, though. I mean, like, I'm a big Joanie Mitchell fan, like I said, so I just love the, like, 70s hippie, like, scene. I just wish I was, like, a hippie in the 70s, to be honest. Not gonna lie. Seems like a vibe.
Yeah, how did you kind of get into 70s music?
You know what? I don't even know, really. I think it kind of was, like, a combination of different things. Like, my mom really loves Joanie Mitchell, so I kind of feel like she... Like, I remember listening to Big Yellow Taxi, like, on a loop when I was a kid, and then as I got older, I was like, wait, that song was really good. Who sung that song? You know, and then my mom is like, you know, played other Joanie Mitchell songs. So I feel like she kind of, you know, can take the credit for that. But then I feel like, honestly, it was just, like, a lot of, like, this sounds so bad, but it was a lot of just, like, recommended on Spotify and YouTube, kind of the stuff that I've been listening to, like, artists now. And then, you know, like, they're looking at their influences and stuff. It kind of just came from that, you know, like, listening to interviews with people.
Yeah.
And then being like, you know, this person I really like. But yeah, I think it's funny because I would say, like, it's not really something that's, like, my peers have, because I don't really know anyone who loves, like, 70s, you know, folk, in my friend group at least. So I've kind of just been on my own, like, oh, I love this stuff, like, you know. But, no, I think, yeah, it's just kind of a mixture of different things. But I feel like Spotify is a great place to discover new music with, like, radio and stuff. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I definitely use Discover Weekly more than I care to admit.
It's good. That's the thing. I actually haven't listened to it, like, in, like, the past week. I need to listen to my Discover Weekly this week. But, you know, it is good. I feel like sometimes you're like, oh, there's nothing on here. Like, I already know all these artists. But then sometimes you're like, oh, like, that's pretty good. I like this, you know? That's pretty cool.
I feel like the algorithm has pretty much hacked my brain at this point. They know what I want to listen to. It's just because I'm like, I wish I was going to like independent record stores and like supporting local businesses, but no, I am paying Spotify to send me.
It's the frustrating thing, especially as like an artist as well, because you're like, oh, I want to support musicians, and you know, Spotify doesn't pay that much, but then it's like, it's so like accessible, and I want to listen to music all the time. So it's like, I'll go crazy if I can't have music on. But no, I love going to record shops as well, but I actually don't have a record player. But it's one of those things I really want to get, because I feel like it'd be cool, but too expensive for a student budget right now.
I get you.
You know?
I was luckily gifted one, and I now just steal my dad's records.
Oh, nice. See, that's cool. Yeah, that's pretty lucky.
Yeah. He was one of those guys, he was like singing Nirvana back in the 90s, so he has some like really good stuff, and I'll just kind of forage in the sort of hundreds of records and find whatever I want, and I'm like, I hope he won't notice just ELO just disappearing.
Yeah. That's so cool though. Man, I wish my like parents were more into records and stuff like that. No, I think the thing is with like records as well that I love, even though I don't have a record player right now, is I love having like the physical copy of the music, you know, and like having like, I'm not even that big of a lyric girl, but I love having like the liner notes and like just the going through and like listening to them and like, you know, like reading all the credits and stuff, even like the, you know, the bass played by this person and stuff. I'm sure you can find all that on Wikipedia, but I just love like I love all that. It's just it's so cool.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of like album art as well. I like having like the art.
Oh, same. Yeah, the art has to be like, it's really funny. Sometimes there's like, I have ideas for like album artwork, and I'm like, okay, now I gotta write some songs for this album artwork, you know. And I'm like, that's not usually how musicians should. I feel like that's not how the process should happen. But for me, I'm like, oh, that artwork would be so cool. I gotta, you know, write some songs now for this.
Yeah. How did the for Don't Wait come about? Because that has a pretty cool like bird on it. And
oh yeah. So that was like a painting I did. It's actually a funny story. I feel like it's a story I shouldn't tell, but I like went to Perth College a couple years ago, and for that we had to like do like artwork for like a fake release, and so that was actually the artwork that I made for this fake release. Strangely enough, like the song that I had written for the fake release, which you didn't actually release, but it was like similar. I mean, it wasn't about moving out, but it was kind of similar vibes to Don't Wait. And then I was like trying to make, because I do draw and paint myself, and I was trying to make artwork for Don't Wait in like January after I recorded it, and I was like, oh no, I can't make anything that really fits. And then I found that, and I was like, oh, I really like that. It actually really like fits with the vibe of the song. Yeah. So it's funny, it wasn't actually made for the song, but no, I thought it worked, and I really liked it. And I'm really obsessed with the color purple in like January and February, so I was like, this is just perfect for this is perfect for it.
Yeah.
So
you'll make the art for future releases?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends. I'm not like, I do really like that kind of idea of making the artwork as well, and kind of almost making like the EP or the single or the album kind of like a full piece of art, and you know the artwork like is kind of encapsulates what all the songs are about. Yeah. Like I really like that idea. But then who knows? I feel like it'd be kind of cool to have like interesting photos taken as well. I don't know of what, maybe me or like something else. So I don't know. Like I know some photographers. So I feel like it'd be cool to contact them as well and be like, you know, some possible artwork. I think it just depends on the album, to be honest. Like I feel like it depends on like the songs that I have. But I do love to draw and paint, so I probably will end up doing, you know, most of my stuff.
Eventually.
Myself. Yeah.
I've tried having pictures taken of myself, but I always end up looking like slightly out of place. Like I'll try and have like a John Mayer moment where I'm like in a field or something, and I'll be like, oh, I look like I'm trespassing. What's going on?
Yeah. It's such an awkward thing having your photo taken, isn't it? I don't know how like musicians do it. And, like they look so cool, because I'm always just like, I don't know what to do with myself. Like making really like stupid faces, like trying to be cool, and it just doesn't work.
I what kind of stuff are you listening to at the moment?
Kind of, oh god, what am I listening to at the moment? I'm listening to a lot of Neil Young right now. And then I've been listening to a lot of First Aid Kit as well, who I absolutely love. Yeah. I don't know if you heard them. They're just so amazing.
Do they have a song called Silver Lining, something along those lines?
Yeah, I think it is Silver Lining, yeah. That's a great song.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Familiar with them. What's the kind of deal with them? How have they influenced you?
Well, I just like in every way. I feel like they're like, because it's like two sisters. I guess it's kind of like Americana folk music. They're from Sweden originally. But their stuff almost has kind of like Emmylou Harris vibes, that kind of like country, like, and then mixed with folk and stuff. But I love it. Like their stuff is so. I think like melodically, I love their melodies, and then their harmonies are amazing. Like it makes me want to like, because they've got that kind of, you know, like blood harmony thing going on, where their harmonies are just always so like just 100% perfect. And I'm like, oh my god, like it influences me and makes me want to like put more harmonies in my songs. But I think the main thing is like melodies and stuff, and just like their general sound. I just love their kind of stuff. Yeah, I need to definitely listen to more. I've kind of maybe listened a couple of times, but I'll try and get into them a bit more, because what I have heard has been really good. Yeah, they're so good. I love them. I'm just waiting for the day to come to Scotland, because they probably have been in the past. I'm just like, I am so there at that show when I get here.
How has being in Scotland kind of influenced your music? Because from what you've kind of said, I get the vibe of like maybe having some like roots in the US has kind of brought in a bit of Americana influence. Has there been any influence from kind of Scottish music?
Yeah, 100%. I think like when I was really little, I actually played the violin from like 5 to 10. And then my mom used to take me to these like house concerts that like her friend had set up, and it was all these kind of like traditional folk bands that would come play like I think the Outside Track and Mary Campbell. And it was so cool. I remember being like, you know, like 7, and it was in this like tiny living room, and then there's like probably like 10 to 15 people in the audience, and you're just sat like right up close to the musicians, and I was like, this was amazing. And that like definitely inspires me. And then in like more recent years, I've got into listening to like more trad folk. I love that kind of stuff. I think it's all the fiddles. I just love fiddle playing so much. I wish I was a fiddle player. I wish I had not given up. It's such a hard instrument. I'm like, oh, I wish I had been more, like...
Did you start learning the fiddle?
Yeah, so I played from, I was, like, I think I started when I was, like, 5, and then I think I started playing guitar when I was, like, 10 or 11 or 12, maybe. Mm-hmm. So then I kind of, like, stopped playing the violin, and then start playing guitar instead, but I think it's one of those things, if I like picked it up now, maybe I'd be able to play like one song, but it wouldn't sound very good. I think with violin, it's like one of those things you have to like be so regimented about it and practice so often, and I think I just didn't have the motivation to practice at like 9 or 10. I was just like, I can't bother doing this. Like guitar is easier, you know. But it's one of those things I'd love to pick up again at some point because I have so much respect for fiddle players.
Yeah, I feel like it's a big thing of, I always think we should make lessons fun for kids when it comes to music, because I remember at that age kind of being taught scales and things and just being completely clueless. I feel like if you want to get like a kid, like a 9-year-old to be playing the violin, you've got to just let them kind of go a bit wild, play whatever they want. I don't know.
Yeah. I think, no, that's definitely true. I feel like I was actually really lucky with the tutor that I had for violin, because she was very much like, just play like what you want, and I was just always picking like just old like folk songs, you know, like trad folk songs, and then because I think it was a case where she was like, it'd probably be good for you to play some classical pieces too, you know, to like learn the techniques for that. And I was like, okay, but I'd rather just play fiddle like all day. So I mean, she was pretty good about that. But then I do remember like having to learn scales and stuff and just being like, this is so boring. It's actually, but I think the thing is with like music theory and scales, it's really like, it's actually so helpful for songwriting, and then even just for like jamming and stuff.
Yeah.
I like learned it at college. I was like, oh my god, this is like so dull. I don't need this. You know, like why am I learning this? Like really like arrogant about it. And then I was like, oh my god, my playing has gotten so much better since I know these things. You know, it's really helpful to know.
I had that in the first year of college, and then I quickly realized, like, oh, it's like having just more tools in your belt. Like, it's another
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like it's one of those things. Almost immediately after learning them, you're like, "This is so helpful." But just like when you when someone's going to someone tells you like, you know, learn the minor scale, you're like, well, I don't need to know that. You know, it's like such a simple thing as well, but you're like, I don't know.
Yeah. Did you kind of grow up in quite a musical environment then?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's funny because like my family aren't super musical. Actually, like now my brothers are quite musical. But like growing up, I was like kind of the one. My mom loves to sing, so like growing up, she would play stuff and she would sing. But that was kind of about it. Like I was like the one musical person in my family, and then even in like my friend group, I didn't know that many people who liked playing music. So it was kind of just me for a while. But now though, like my younger brother, he's actually like a techno musician. He's just released one of his songs recently.
Okay.
So yeah, like kind of more musical family now, I think. But
yeah.
But no, I mean, I was going to gigs and stuff as a kid, so yeah, I guess I did have like obviously it was there. I mean, it's a big part of my life, so yeah.
I'm always jealous of people who had like musician parents who would like show them the ropes. I was just,
me too, man. I was like, Mom, you sang. Why didn't you do that? Like,
yeah, I always think it's interesting as well. Sometimes you'll hear if you know Nick Drake, but you can hear like his mum used to play piano and she would release music. And you can hear like her chordings on his guitar. It's really crazy how sometimes people can be like, I guess from that early age, if you get those influences in, sometimes hear them show up in like their later work. It's kind of cool. Yeah.
That is really cool. I didn't know. I'll have to go back and listen to. I haven't listened to his stuff recently. I really need to go back and listen to more of his stuff. But no, that's definitely true. Like you had like earlier influences. Like I think a lot of the musicians I like now are actually musicians my mom liked would play when I was really little. You know, like Suzanne Vega and Joanie Mitchell, and even people like Peter, Paul, and Mary who like sing the kind of like. But I think that like has a big influence. My love of like 70s kind of and 60s folk.
Yeah.
And then on my playing as well, like it definitely does influence it, and I feel it influences so interesting because it's not really something you like consciously think about a lot of the time when you're actually playing and like when you're writing. But then you can like someone will be like, oh, that song sounds like that person's song, and you're like, oh yeah, I guess I didn't think about that, but I've been listening to them a lot recently. It's weird.
Yeah, are you kind of into the style of the 70s as well, or just kind of the music?
Oh yeah, I mean, I feel like I've got kind of a 70s shirt going on. I don't know. No, I definitely love all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I just wish I lived in the 70s. I mean, it didn't have, it wasn't all great. No, I love, yeah, no, but I love the style of like the 70s musicians, even like Fleetwood Mac, like Stevie Nicks, like she's just like a style icon in my eyes.
Yeah. I remember I saw her performing Rhiannon, and she literally looked like a witch, and I was like, she's awesome. She's
just
like,
so cool.
Being,
Yeah, I feel like she's like on another level. She's just not human. She's amazing.
She is. Are you into kind of like aspects of like 70s culture? Because I know I've seen like a couple of people I know kind of like organizing be-ins or like love-ins and stuff, and I'm very much digging that kind of revival that's going on at the minute.
I think actually, yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard that kind of stuff before, but I mean, I think I probably would be. I think it definitely is, like, I just love all that kind of stuff. Like, anything that seems to be 70s related, if it's something I haven't heard before, I'm like, well, that's pretty cool, like, I like that. Like, I've gotten really into, like, wearing bandanas recently, like, as headbands, and I'm like, oh, I feel like, cool 70s vibes here.
Do you ever get into, like, 60s folk or, like, other decades, or is it just kind of 70s?
Yeah, well, I feel like, I don't know, I think there are musicians who I listen to from like the 60s. I'm trying to think now. I can't think of anyone, but I know there are some that I like. I love a lot of like the Beatles, obviously. The Beatles are. I mean, you can't not listen to them as a musician. But I feel like with like folk wise, I don't really know. I think it's not something that I'm against. I think it just happens to be a lot of the artists right now that I love are like from the 70s, or like they're like their big day was in the 70s. But no, there's definitely some like 60s musicians who I love as well. I love a lot of like soul music from kind of like the 60s, like just like Aretha Franklin and like Sam Cooke and Otis Redding and all that kind of stuff. I love that. So I guess that kind of falls into the 60s and into the 70s as well. So
I find even if I listen to like soul music or like different genres, it will still like influence me a bit, even though I'm not that style. Do you kind of have that?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's funny. I haven't really gone through a phase listening to soul music in a while, but I know like when I started listening to it a couple of months ago or even like last year, it definitely did influence like my like, especially my melodies. I feel like that's the one thing that always influences when I listen to like other genres. Mm-hmm. I think maybe because I like limit myself with like the acoustic guitar a lot of the time when I'm like writing. So, it's always that kind of similar thing. But definitely with, like melodies and even lyrics, I did find there was like certain things that it sounded kind of more like soul-y. But yeah, and I love all that kind of stuff, like soul and blues. It's so good.
Yeah, I think it would be definitely cool to hear you do some blues stuff in the future. That'd be pretty awesome.
I'd love to, yeah. Even just after, like, going to this, like, open mic night I told you about before, like, that, I was just like, I want to be a blues musician now. It's like when you go see live music and you see a band and maybe it's not something you normally listen to, and then all of a sudden you're just like, wait, I don't want to do this music that I'm doing. I want to do this what these people are doing, It's like, like, musical identity crisis. I have it all the time when I see a band that I love that are a different genre to what I play. I'm like, wait, I just want to do what they're doing.
Yeah, I recently discovered a guy called Brant Bjork, and I wrote a metal song off of the back of discovering his music, and it's now just sat on my computer. I'm like, will I ever release that? Who knows?
Yeah.
It's just like, I just kind of saw him and was like, oh, I'm going to completely change my direction now because I think it's cool. So that does definitely happen to me sometimes, Yeah, it
happens to me all the time. That's really funny, though. I feel like metal is one of those genres I can't get into, but I feel like I want to, like, because I do like, some hard rock and stuff. And actually, even, like, the band, what's the band that won Eurovision? It's really bad, I don't remember their name. Is it Manskin? I don't know. They're, like, Italian. They, like, are a bit more metal. I mean, they're kind of still rock, but that's, like, the closest I'll get, like, it's very hard rock, but I'm, like, it's the closest I'll get to kind of, like, metal. But it's, like, so impressive, the musicianship with metal. I feel like they're, like, so technically, like, on top of things. I'm like, oh, I'm impressed.
Yeah, to be fair, I think this guy might have been more like desert rock technically, but in my mind, heavy guitars, metal.
See, I'm the same though with like that because I'm like such a folk musician. I'm like, it's distortion. Oh, that's kind of metal.
I see like more than 5 pedals on the pedal board. I'm like, oh, he's a metal guy. Great.
Yeah, exactly.
So in terms of, I think we touched briefly earlier on like the idea of like telling stories within like country music. Can you kind of see yourself what kind of stories do you think you'll kind of be telling in future songs?
I don't actually know. That's a really good question because I love kind of like all kinds of ballads. Like you get like really cool country ballads where it's like about a murderer or like a love ballad, or like a revenge or something. I don't know. But I feel like my like like, lyric writing is not my strong suit. So, like, but I want to get better at it. I think I love the idea of writing ballads. But I think it's one of those things I need to, like, work more at it, you know? Because I always feel like I have ideas for stories that are kind of all over the place. But, yeah, I don't know, I feel like I'd love to write, like, an outlaw ballad, you know? Just a classic, like, cowboy, kind of like Townes Van Zandt kind of thing. Like, I love that kind of stuff. So I could see myself writing something like that, you know?
Yeah, I would love to. I would love to. The thing is, I don't have much experience of being an outlaw in, like, the South. So I can't imagine what it would be like.
Yeah. So, you know, just listen to a bunch of Townes Van Zandt and then you'll get the feeling of it. That he's, like, very... Oh, he's great.
He's great. His track, I think it's called Black Widow Spider Blues.
Oh, I think I know that one. Yeah.
It's a great track.
I love his stuff. He's actually another artist that's had a huge influence on my music that I forgot to mention before. But yeah, a lot of his songs, like Poncho and Lefty and If I Need You, like, those two songs are just amazing. I mean, he has so many amazing songs. But his, like, style of, like, finger picking and his, like, melodies as well have really influenced my writing in the past, like, 6 months, I'd say, because I kind of didn't really discover him until more recently. But he's an amazing songwriter. He was an amazing songwriter. He was an amazing musician.
Definitely. Do you kind of play more fingerpick stuff as well?
Yeah, I definitely do. Yeah, I mean, I'm not, like, amazing at it. I want to get better at it. But no, I feel like, yeah, half my songs are kind of more like finger picking, kind of like Townes Van Zandt style stuff. I think it's like Travis picking. I never remember the technical names of these things.
Yeah, Travis picking. That's like
so it's like
bass.
Yeah, like the rotating stuff. Yeah, it's more that kind of stuff. I love that. So yeah, definitely like half of my music is finger picking. Even maybe like 3/4, and then like another, you know, like the last quarter is stuff like Don't Wait, where it's like more just strumming. I pretty much prefer picking to strumming. So definitely when my future releases will have more of that in it.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're talking about how, like, Joanie Mitchell kind of uses crazy tunings. Do you kind of see yourself playing like that in the future?
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to. I've, like, tried to go out of myself before with songwriting, and I used, like, DADGAD, and then, like, but I love open tuning, like open G and like open D. I love the sound of it. I feel like it sounds so rich. And then even just, like, down tuning, you know, like just like tuning down a step or whatever. Like, I love the sound of it. So it's definitely something I want to explore more with my songwriting, and even just like learning other people's songs as well, like just playing more of that. Because I feel like Jodie's really the only one, and then like a couple, you know, like Stone songs where Keith Richards loves to do like the open G and stuff. But no, I definitely want to explore that more in my songwriting, because I love the sound of it. It's so cool.
Yeah. Do you kind of play a lot of covers then?
You know, I don't know. I mean, like, when I obviously love learning other people's songs because it's fun to play, like, you know, your favorite songs. Yeah. But I feel like actually, like, the majority of my stuff is, like, I'll spend it writing and then playing my own songs. It's always kind of one of those things where I know I should learn more of, like, people's songs, because it's like, it, you know, it makes you better as a musician. Like, you learn things you wouldn't have done, you know, you wouldn't have heard it before. But actually, like, a lot of times I'm just playing my own stuff, and I'm like, I need to, like, advance more, you know, like, get off this, like, but no, I do like playing covers. I just love playing other people's songs, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, it kind of depends.
I have that if I've kind of come up with the initial idea for something, I'll just keep building and building on it and being like, does it sound this way or that way, and kind of obsessing over it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. Do you want to tell people where they can find you on social media?
Yeah, so it's Bea Lacey Music. You can find me on Instagram. As that name, I should have said it was on Instagram first. And then you can also find me on Facebook as Bea Lacey Music. And then Spotify, I'm on Spotify and SoundCloud and Bandcamp as well. So if you want to go check me out, feel free. But thank you so much for having me. I've loved doing this. This has been great.
No problem. I mean, it's been a pleasure.